Rick, I think most of us would like to leave behind a lasting legacy like saving another life, but few of us will ever get that chance. When he registered to be an organ donor, Shane Moss probably never thought he'd die at such a young age, but he did, and while the story you're about to see is hard to watch, hopefully it will inspire. It was a crash so awful, it's hard to look at. 20-year-old Shane Moss was a passenger in that red pickup truck. It crashed into the back of an 18-wheeler on I-65 near Clarksville. The driver had minor injuries, but Shane was severely injured. He was taken to U of L Health in Louisville. With family and friends at his side, Shane fought for weeks.
I do believe in my heart. I believe that he did know that we were there for him.
What Shane's mom didn't know is that her son had registered to be an organ donor. Once doctors and nurses could do no more and death was inevitable, one of his kidneys and his heart would be harvested. On the way to the operating room, Shane had what is known as an honor walk. Loved ones and medical professionals lined the hall, Shane's family at his side. On his chest is a heart pillow signed by his nurses, which now sits on his mother's lap. At the elevator, it was time for Shane's girlfriend, Lucy, to say goodbye.
I love you so much. Miss you.
Everyone, we're going to do a moment of silence. This is Shane. May we pause in silence and honor and pay respects to Shane's life.
We had a chance. We were allowed to go in to hold his hand until he took his last breath, but I personally, I couldn't do that.
In life, his family says Shane was an outgoing guy who loved to travel, explore, and fish. In death, parts of his body live on. His mother, Ashley, says his heart and kidney were flown from Louisville to Vanderbilt University in Nashville, where they were transplanted into an unknown recipient.
To know that my son's heart is going to be beating in somebody else, to give them life, to give somebody else life, as hard as this is, at least that he died and there was a purpose and he gets to live on with somebody else.
Only about 1% of the people who are registered will die in a way that they can even become an organ donor.
Denisha Henry began working for Kentucky organ donor affiliates after losing her daughter to Neil Martin. Before the 17-year-old died from a problem involving blood vessels in her brain, the teenager made the decision to donate her organs. Now, Denisha is encouraging others to do the same.
It's just one of those things that I think that we don't think about as a society because we're not comfortable with talking about death. But once we die, we aren't going to need those organs.
With his final act, Shane gave the gift of life to someone else. Ashley doesn't know who has her son's organs, man, woman, young, old, but hopes to meet that person one day.
I would love to hear his heartbeat through somebody else, though. I really would.
That may happen. Donor families and recipients often connect through CODA and similar organ donation agencies. If you'd like to become an organ donor, it's easy. Just visit Donate Life Kentucky or Donate Life Indiana to register. Reporting live, Randall Cam, WOKY News.